Kevin, I want to clarify, it's not just the pavement that has dipped. Take a look at the bridge from where we're standing.
It was pretty tense here. Everybody just watching that van being pulled through the harbor, up and out of the water.
Towards Cornell, about 300 yards, when it exploded in the middle of the street. You can see what's left of the truck just there in the road. The state assembly could vote on a measure this week that would put an end to in-person absentee voting on weekends. But not only is it more full, it's flowing faster, and it looks more like melted chocolate ice cream than it does water. I'm currently walking down the gangway of the Norwegian tall ship called the Sorlendet. We've actually got 8 ships that have already docked, just like this one. I did not fall into the river. We are docked. And if you follow me right around this way, Matt, you might have to vouch for me about this. In my last hit about 15-20 minutes ago, this entire parking lot was in the process of being plowed. Definitely slowed down, but it hasn't stopped, and there is still a lot of cleanup to do. Did I hit anything? Oh. I didn't hit anything. I did good. 15 inches, so they got off easy, not the full 17. And as you can see, it's really piling up. And it's come so far inland, it's taken out a tree and even a light post.
It's the start of spring according to the calendar only.
Right. Now you have a prediction of when you think the last day.
Don't go there.
No,
don't go there.
All right, he doesn't want to receive hate mail, so I won't make, I won't make you give that. We'll stay tuned after the break. We've got more news and sports coming right at you. Don't go anywhere. With every painful step, 20-year-old Zach Nguyen is celebrating. It's the 1-week anniversary of what could have been his death. Last Wednesday, he took his 2-year-old Ducati 748 for a ride.
A friend had called me up to hang out, so I was heading out over there.
Zach was riding his motorcycle in this direction, east on County Road II, when a pickup truck coming in the other direction turned at this intersection right in front of him. Zach didn't have time to stop and slammed into the side of the truck.
The next thing I knew, I just blacked out. I don't remember anything after that.
I was just sitting down for dinner when I got a call from the social worker at the hospital.
Zach had been rushed to Theta Clark's emergency room.
It's the worst nightmare you can possibly go through.
He had broken several vertebrae and ribs, among other things.
My collarbone's broken. All the facial bones up here are fractured. I fractured the back of my skull.
But he was alive.
That was actually what saved his life, because you can see where it took the impact.
If he hadn't had a helmet on, he probably would have had an open skull fracture with, brain material coming out from that. You're not going to survive that type of an accident.
Now, Zach is telling everyone.
It's not one of those things that, oh, I don't look cool or, in with wearing a helmet, but it's either that or you could be dead. I like to stress that fact.
It's a long road to full recovery, but thanks to his helmet, it's a walk he's still alive to take. In Winnebago County, Jennifer Ann Wilson, Action 2 News. A City of Green Bay team, including the mayor, city planner, and economic development director, gathered visual aids, packed a van, and took off for a secret location at the request of Walmart just minutes before their scheduled meeting at City Hall. We found the group on the second floor of Titletown Brewing, where they held a more than 2-hour meeting behind closed doors, during which Walmart presented changes to its Broadway District Supercenter plans.
They've got their urban architect in town, and they've done some things that it's a big move for them, but it still isn't exactly what I think we're looking for in the Broadway district.
Walmart spokesperson Lisa Nelson used this fire escape to exit Titletown Brewing because she says she had another meeting to get to and she didn't want to be late. But I was able to catch up with her, and she says her time with the city was very productive.
They were just very gracious to us with what their vision is for this area and what they want us to consider with when we come back to the city with some revisions to our plan.
The mayor suggested alternate locations for Walmart to consider.
When you look at the market they want to serve, there are some other sites that I think could work for them, and they're going to take it through their analysis and see if there is some potential.
Walmart plans to meet again with the city in 2 weeks.
We have a lot of ideas for changes, and we're going to take them back and see what we can do with them.
At first you kind of have this panic run through your body.
For 2 hours, locked in a hospital room with her preemie 5-month-old twin daughters, Jenny Wisniewski waited and watched out the window.
All the police officers in and out, and the police vehicles in and out, and we watched them block off the road so that nobody could get in or out.
Above her, on the 7th floor in the neonatal unit, Milwaukee police were serving a warrant for 22-year-old felon Ashanti Hendricks while he was holding a baby. Hendricks put down the baby, ran, then showed police he was also carrying a gun.
The subject turned on the officers with a .40 caliber Glock semi-automatic pistol in his hand. One officer fired twice, striking the subject in the arm.
Hendricks was taken into custody and the lockdown was lifted just after 2 p.m.
The nurses were calm, which is huge. When the staff is calm and maintains that calm, that helps a lot.
So despite today's frightening ordeal, Children's Hospital is still a place of hope and healing for Wisniewski and her girls.
So definitely something to put in their baby book.
For the Wednesday morning I-43 commuters who are still a bit sleepy,
I went westbound. I noticed it and I kind of thought I was dreaming, you know.
driving across a quickly sinking 400-foot stretch of the Leo Frigo Bridge woke them right up.
It looks like there's a part that's sagging.
A part that's sagging?
Yes.
The 911 calls came in around 4:45 a.m. The bridge was closed before 5:30, forcing an estimated 40,000 motorists to find a new route indefinitely.
Could be months, could be a year.
DOT engineers determined the cause of the sag was a pier that suddenly settled, causing the column and the section of the bridge it supports to sink an estimated 20 inches, all within hours.
We're doing survey information. We're taking constant measurements on that pier, not only on other piers adjacent to it, to make sure nothing is moving or what's happening right there.
According to a Department of Transportation report, the Leo Frigo Bridge was inspected less than a year ago. And at that time, investigators say the bridge was fine. Although this report does mention there were several cracks in one of the columns of the bridge. So I asked investigators if that was perhaps an early indicator that the bridge was sinking. They say no, it was only cosmetic and has nothing to do with the problems we're seeing now. The DOT doesn't have a timeline or a price tag on fixing the bridge just yet, but Governor Walker promised it will happen, whatever the cost.
Once we know the full details of what's required to fix this bridge, we will fix this bridge because it's not only important to Green Bay and to Brown County, it's important to the state of Wisconsin.
Prisoners in their own homes. That's how families of heroin addicts describe what the drug is doing to them. Target 2 Investigates spoke with law enforcement who say heroin use has reached a crisis level. They have no way of knowing exact numbers, but estimate there are thousands of users in northeast Wisconsin. Target 2 discovered the AIDS Resource Center, which provides clean needles to prevent spread of disease, exchanged 2.5 million needles statewide last year, more than double the amount in 2010. They were almost exclusively for heroin users. While those are all high numbers, there are even more seemingly innocent people affected by this highly addictive drug. Sarah Thompson joins us with what she found in this Target 2 investigation. Well, the Shawano County Sheriff's Department is treating the discovery of human remains as a homicide investigation. Officials say a group of teenagers discovered human remains in a wooded area along Peach Road in the town of Richmond last night.
Like a joke, and then I called my mom over, and she looked at it and she told me it was real, and then she called 911.
Investigators from several agencies worked through the morning hours collecting evidence from the scene. The remains are now on their way to the Wisconsin Crime Lab, where they will be examined and possibly identified. There are a number of missing person cases in the area, but officials are not yet saying whether there is a connection to any of them. 4 teens are seriously injured following a one-vehicle crash in Brown County. Officials say it happened just after midnight this morning on County Highway G, just west of County Highway V near the town of Ledgeview. The 4 injured teens are ages 17 and 18 and are from Wrightstown and De Pere. Police believe speed was a factor but do not think drugs or alcohol were involved. Officials in Green Lake County say a standoff ended early this morning without any shots being fired. Police responded to a domestic disturbance call just before 7 this morning in the 200 block of Canal Street in the city of Berlin. A pregnant woman told authorities she had been battered and received injuries to her stomach. The male suspect was believed to be armed. Several homes nearby and one church were evacuated while police tried to make contact with those inside the home. Police were eventually able to get in touch with the victim, and she exited the residence with her 18-month-old child. Both were immediately examined by paramedics. The male suspect exited a short time later and was arrested without incident. He now faces charges of domestic abuse. Former Wisconsin Governor Patrick Lucey is dead at the age of 96. Lucey served as the state's governor from 1971 to 1977 before leaving to become President Jimmy Carter's ambassador to Mexico. He also ran for vice president as an independent with former Illinois Congressman John Anderson in 1980. Lucey will perhaps be remembered most in Wisconsin for pushing to merge UW-Madison and 12 other four-year universities into one system. A number of former prosecutors are calling these latest back and forth developments in the John Doe investigation unprecedented. Last week, a federal judge halted the investigation, which was looking into potential coordination between conservative groups and Republican campaigns during the recall elections. An appeals court immediately blocked that decision, but the judge reinstated it the next day, which again stopped the investigation. This morning on Up Front with Mike Goucher, former Kenosha and Waukesha County District Attorneys weigh in on the initial injunction.
I thought it was a mind-boggling ruling, just mind-boggling. I've never ever heard of a judge ordering a prosecutor to stop an investigation in its tracks before the prosecutor's done with the investigation.
The ruling was so broad and so far sweeping, I think, to have a federal court come in and tell a prosecutor, you cannot, there's no convictions here. This isn't a trial. It's an investigative tool that prosecutors use.
Also appearing this morning on Up Front, Winnebago County Executive Mark Harris, who's running for Congress as a Democrat in Wisconsin's 6th Congressional District. Congressman Tom Petri announced earlier this spring he won't seek re-election. Currently, 3 Republicans have declared their candidacy along with 2 Democrats, including Harris.
I think the Republican candidates are positioning themselves way to the right. There's even been some dispute between some of them over who's the furthest to the right. And I think they're misreading this district. I think the district wants someone who's a centrist. They want someone who's willing to compromise and work with other members of Congress to get things done. I don't think they're looking for extreme positions or obstruction.
Primary elections will be held in August. In eastern Ukraine today, pro-Russian insurgents went through with a contentious referendum seeking independence from the central government in Kiev. According to local militias, nearly 90% of voters in 2 provinces supported greater sovereignty. But critics questioned the legitimacy of that number because there were no independent observers monitoring the vote. It's unclear whether pro-Russian leaders in the region will now try to replicate what happened in Crimea. The peninsula was annexed by Russia earlier in the year following a similar referendum. 9 new players are on their way to Green Bay after being selected in this year's NFL Draft. Coming up in Sunday's Sports Night, Dave Schrader takes a closer look at the Packers' newest additions.